Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the World Sprint Championship. Welcome back once again. Also, it's going to be a great race out there tonight. We're heading out to Spa-Francorchamps. We're not going to waste any time, as we did have a couple of technical hiccups prior to the session, but now it's time to get trackside for qualifying itself. Of course, joining me, one and only Eero. How are you doing? How are you feeling about tonight's race, mate?
Hello, Ben, and glad to be here. I'm looking forward to the race. Always interesting to see what happens. We got plenty of cars. Track is a classic. Can't wait to see what happens.
I'm very excited for it as well. One thing we do need to mention, though, is we need to talk about the winners from the previous race out. So, first off, we're going to go to the hypercar podium. My OBS had a little bit of a hiccup there. Let's try that one again. It's quite loud, folks. Apologies for that. But in the other end of things, we have Timi Lehtinen, Daniel Moffat, and Robert Poor completing our podium for LMGT3s. They've been a little bit of a gremlin-riddled opening, and we do apologise for that, but we are about to go trackside for the session in full, and we cannot wait for it. So, let's talk about the track. Spa-Francorchamps. How do you feel about this track, Eero?
Spa is a classic. There's always something going up Rouge Rodillon. It's such an iconic racetrack. Love to race around it, love to watch races around it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well. It is, of course, a track that is steeped in motorsport history. It is a track that is known and beloved by so many racing fans out there. And I think we're going to waste zero time in getting out there now, because we already have drivers trackside and beginning their laps. So let's head on board. Let's see what our racers are capable of, and we will see how things go in terms of our racers finding their footing and getting themselves ready to go. First things first, we're on board right now with one of the Lamborghinis. So this is going to be none other than Gianluca Bellucci, and we will be closely monitoring how he does here as the session moves forward. They're looking very nice through the first sector. There we go. That's the graphic now popping up on your screens. You can see some of the drivers who are returning to this session. 34 cars making their way through here. Gianluca Bellucci currently standing on a 32.389, so leading time here as we head now through into Pouin, down the hill, and you watch them balance that car delicately on the very limit. A nice and clean driving, but you can notice how he's not using that much of the curb in a lot of places here, Eero.
Yeah, the curbs can be a bit slippery sometimes, especially when your tires are still cold start of the session. Gotta get some warmth into those so you'll have better grip, and then you can start using the curbs once you get the feel for the limits of the grip for today's conditions.
Yeah, so making a way through. They're looking good here through the bus stop chicane. Bellucci did have a little bit of an off in the second sector. We can at least see the kind of provisional time that they can put down here. So Bellucci up to the line. And actually, it was valid despite looking like it wasn't going to be. It's a 2-minute 0.367. More drivers now coming through. It's going to be Henrik de Vries in second place. with a 2:09. Meanwhile, let's actually check in with some of our LMGT3s. Here's Robert Poor making his way down, and this is going to be in the 296 GT3 car. We'll see how he handles this one.
Coming down to the bus stop. See if he can get a decent time going here.
Up to the line now. It is. There was
220. 242. That's pretty decent for starters, but I think he's immediately overtaken by Jordan 14. 220.040. Very respectable.
Yeah, so we have Forte, Poor, Alasdair Ramsey, Daniel Moffat, and Franklin Stijink in your top 5 for LMGT3. We've also got our classic picture-in-picture making a quick return here. So you'll be able to keep an eye on multiple views at the same time as we go through this quali session. Matteo Bocche is in the Toyota GRO110. And they will be a car to watch as well, because we've seen the Toyota have some good, respectable pace. It's a little bit of an all-rounder in this field, I like to see it as.
Yeah, it has got the straight line speed, definitely, for Spa.
So they've got some good speed here, and they'll be able to carry that through. It's got a good balance of top end and downforce they'll be able to run with. So Picossi is going to be the lead time, 59.8 right now here. We're going to stick on board with Bouquet, as they will be the car that currently could set the time as a light, depending on how they balance this final sector. It's a 10th down in Sector 2. There's a little bit over the line in Sector 1, but can they link it all together in the end? Remember, target 59, 2:07 on the clock up to the line now. It's a 2:220. So that is going to be the Toyota up into second place. And very nicely done indeed. Few more cars up at the top end who are going to be making their way around. Here's Alessandro Grossi. So another Lamborghini pilot up to the line now, 2:08. Will they shave it down? It is not going to be an improvement here. The Sector 3 just wasn't quite in it.
Meanwhile, we have Timi Lehtonen taking the first place with the first place of the GT3s with a 2:19.137.
So 2:19, very respectable time here, because you've got to remember the LMGT3s, they do have a lot of pace that they need to make up. And we're also seeing quite a bit more grid spread in the LMGT3s. We've got Timi Lehtonen coming up with a 2:19.137, and then at the other end of the spectrum you have Carl Whitehouse with a 2:27. So 8 seconds disparity. Compare that to just under 4 seconds with Mark Ferdinand Kerner in the number 93 Peugeot, currently sat at the bottom of the 16 hypercars, and then Picossi at the top with a 1:59. So it's about half the time gap.
Yeah, the hypercars seem to have attracted a very tight grid here tonight at GRDC. The GT3s don't have quite the same aerodynamics nor the top line speed, so you really have to take every tenth you can out of every single corner, and a lot of them corners around here at Spa are very tricky, very technical corners.
There goes Adam Zaplar, though. 1:59.7. He had a purple sector too, and that's all it took. Just really strong second sector to link it all up, and just pips the pole of the lap here. So very nicely done. David Pettick just came across the line, third driver to get into the 1:59s with a .931. Meanwhile, LMGT3s, you've got a few cars that are on pace. Alistair Ramsey still remains in 4th with no major improvement, but we'll see Danny Moffat, see how he can get some improvements down onto the boards here, as there is certainly a bit of pace that he'll be able to carry. No major uplift in terms of moment to moment, but we will see if they can get it linked up in the final corners. So a little bit down on these first 2 sectors, but can they get a good sector 3? Bounce it back up to the line here, and it is going to be an improvement, but it's not enough for the margin they need.
Gonna need to keep pushing a little bit more.
Niesbeck coming up to line, weak. Sector 2, in fact, lost a lot of time on Sector 2. But still putting down a respectable time, 2:21.314. I think it's still measuring relative to the hypercars. So that is going to be a bit of an odd one to try and pass in terms of timings. But even so, good times being put down by the field in quite balanced measure. We'll see Pocosi is likely to go for another run on the attack. You can see they're coming out the pits now. Yeah, just a hint of the bump start in the background. It's always a very satisfying noise. But we have a few different drivers joining us as well. So 34 cars on field, 19 hypercars and 15 LMGT3s. With quite a varied grid as well, I have to add.
Definitely, it's gonna be a tough race tonight. Very interesting to see what our drivers can do here. There's quite a few good overtaking opportunities here at Spa, but it's gonna be a lot of cars and a lot of different pace drivers.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I am interested for as we come up to the end of qualifying in a few minutes is I'm interested to see how the hypercars handle traffic management. Now, we've already had a couple of warnings. Stewarding has come out and requested that a few drivers in particular need to improve how they pass the LMGT3s, particularly getting into a couple of sticky situations. But it's one of those awkward spots where you have the faster car and you want to get round as quick as you can, but at the same time, and golden rule of racing, say it with me now, it's the passing car's responsibility to do it safely.
Absolutely.
It's an important thing, and hopefully we will see that kind of improvement as we go through into the final couple of minutes of qualifying.
We generally do have very good racing standards here, so I'm confident our drivers can get their moves done safely and without risking others people's races.
Yep, so of course much to discuss in terms of the race conditions itself. I mean, a lot of drivers were handed time penalties for avoidable incidents and given a few penalty points as well to boot. So that is going to be a bit of an effect. Last hypercar to set a time on the boards currently has nothing on there. It's going to be Dan Wilson making his way up to the line. It's going to be a 2:02.6, so that is going to be 16th out of 19th in the hypercar grid. But let's quickly tune over and see if anyone on the LMGT3 side is pushing. We do have Robert Poor currently in second and has got the pressure piled on. He's got a lot to work for here. It's still 0.7 of a second he needs to catch up to the back of Lettinen.
Yep, and he's being threatened from third place. Alistair Ramsey, who's only a 10th behind him. It's gonna be a tight race at the top. Tight race all around the field tonight. We will hopefully get a few more improvements out of our drivers. There's 1 minute left in the qualifying.
Here we are, sticking tight to the back of Robert Poor as timing is looking good, at least in the first sector. Will they link it up in sector 2? It's looking actually very nice here. 61.4, that's faster than even Lettinen's time in this sector. So I think there's potential to make this happen and to really hammer it home. Just needs to get a good bus stop chicane, and this could be the lap here. Making their way up now to the line. Here is a poor, nice line through the bus stop chicane, just dodging the curbs. A little bit wider on the second half and the final corner, but still hammer down to the line. Looking good. And it's a 219.4, so not quite the improvement they were looking for. I think the first sector did let them down. But in the end, the timer has stopped. And so it is last chance for anyone to get going here. We've got some of the hypercars who have just managed to beat the checkered flag of the session. Here's Schlichting coming up to the line now, 2 minutes, 0.742, and hopefully looking to get a large improvement. It's looking good on all sectors, 2 minute, 0.384. That's going to be pushing them up into 6th place. A few more cars making their way. Red Oilal now on another attempt. Looks like more cars are just trying to find some space. Here comes Nate Walter, another Toyota runner. Got them and a couple of others. Mika Patouche, I think, just finished just behind, 2 minute 1.3. So Max Holstenius in 11th, making a bit of a jump. Up through into the bus stop chicane now. And here comes Walter. Can they link it all together? Up to the line here. Good sector 2. Sector 3 needs to impress. Unfortunately, it doesn't quite impress. And they're going to remain in P12. So let's check on board with Picosi as well, as you have the simultaneous view from the LMGT3 perspective, courtesy of Eero's in-game. So Picosi up to the line. You can also see that's going to be on the GTs. And oh, that's Picosi losing the rear end, locking the brakes. A bit too much pressure on the brake pedal. That could have been the run. That was the fastest Sector 1 we have seen on this circuit. Shame to see it go to waste.
The hypercars are very delicate to drive. You know, it's very easy to make the slightest mistake, and then they are not very forgiving about that.
Meanwhile,
definitely take a lot of skill from the driver.
Yeah, meanwhile, 2 minute point 30 or 3026. That's going to be 17th for Bordenini. And then last couple of cars making their way across. And everyone is going to be peeling to a stop. And that is where we call it, ladies and gentlemen. So, qualifying results are in. Let's have a look at what we got here in this session. Adam Zaplar is going to just beat out Federico Picosi, and second is going to be just a half-tenth away.
Drivers go to the grid for a race start.
There you go, there is the call, but it's Petit, Bellucci, Bouquet, Schlichting, Diaz, Grossi, De Vries, and Butzin. But let's get the field ready. Let's get them all trackside ready to go. We'll do a full run through in just a moment here. So let's go. Let's set that starting order. Let's talk racers. First off, as you said, Zaplar and Picosi. First and second, that's going to be the 499P and SC63. Another Ferrari and Lamborghini are going to line the second row. It's Petit and Bellucci. And then you also have Bouquet and Schlichting. Toyota make an appearance in 5th place. 7th and 8th are going to go to Porsche and another Lambo. This is going to be Mitchell Diaz and Alessandro Grossi. 9th and 10th is then going to be Henrik De Vries with Marvin Butzin closing that order up. Row 6 is going to be Holstenius and Walter in the Porsche and Toyota hypercars respectively, with Patouche and Wallace in the 51 and 15 Ferrari and BMW. So good to see that out on track. Cook and Wilson are going to be in the 99 and 2 Porsche and Cadillac, with Baldinini and Borgso in the Porsche and the Alpine, making a nice appearance there. Then you round off the hypercar grid with Kerner, and then Timi Lehtinen is going to be pole position for the LMGT3s. Poor and Ramsey are on row 2. And we have many more drivers. I don't think I have enough time to go through the entire starting order, as I think the formation lap is going to be getting underway. So we'll have a quick sort of final look through. Barham, Uhilal, Nisbet, Starkey coming up to the bus stop chicane. You can see the cars in the background here. Stashink and Biddle in 29th and 30th. Final 2 rows, Borgeson and Curtis. And then you have Whitehouse and Vasilopoulos coming up in 33rd and 34th. There we go. Formation is in play. The field is ready to go, and we are off racing. It's a quick dart and a quick getaway from both of the Lamborghinis, but they're not going to be outdone yet. Zapla is holding firm, holding the line, and keeping trace of the apex. We can see further down, picture in picture, chaos has erupted further down. LMGT3s stepping on each other's toes every single second of the way. Meanwhile, you have Zapla getting a good early break, getting a good run here, as this is going to be a quick attack, just trying to get some early space. And this is what the race is going to be all about. Get your early room, get your fighting in, and oh, it's in the background. Something has gone wrong. You can see absolute carnage, chaos. There's wheels, there's tires in the sky. It's going to be all kicking off, and just like that, Butson is completely out of it. I think that they have suffered from severe damage. Bouquet, someone has lost a wheel. I think Bouquet's the one who lost the wheel.
Running for the camera there for a bit.
You have some of them making a recovery. Kerner, Wilson, all on the bounce back, trying their best to get back onto things, but it's going to be a tough one to handle. I think Borgso was also involved in that, or at least barely dodged a bullet, because that Malpine is struggling to keep it on track. We'll already see them sweeping wide, and Dan Wilson, or is that... No, that's my mistake there. That is one of the Cadillacs coming up there. There's De Vries and then Baldonini. Crikey, it's all kicked off and we've only just started.
Yep. Only 2 minutes of racing and so much has already happened.
See, that's going to be quick work, as that is the Porsche of Holstenius making a way around Patouche. See local yellows being called in places as the field is just trying to find some equilibrium now. See, Alistair Ramsey has actually managed to come out of that one on top there, as the LMGT3s got severely impacted by that early collision.
Yep, he's followed by Moffat, and third place has been just taken by Jordan Foley, and they are battling with Reda Hilal. Side by side, through the finishing line, and into turn 1.
You can see there is Kerner now heading into the pit lane. Wilson is going to follow suit, as they just went off in the bus stop chicane, and was wobbling a little bit as things got a little bit dicey. Meanwhile, you've got Forte and Poor also pushing for the challenge. And at the front, we actually see a fight for the lead. Pocosi has really closed the gap to Zapla now, and even Bellucci is breathing down the neck. So we will potentially see this come to blows in just a couple of corners' time.
Forte and Uhila still going side by side. Forte's managed to snag the position for now. We'll see how long they can keep it.
See, just eyeing up the opportunity here. So Pocosi could really put some pressure down. Oh, but saying that, they got a little bit wide, just coming out of the second sector. A little bit wobbly. Not feeling too comfortable just yet with the attack. You can see sparks flying. Shows how much downforce these things are generating. Looking like absolute little rockets.
They are. The electric engine makes them go. Alongside with the regular old horsepowers, of course, but they are absolute rockets.
Well, Well, it's worth mentioning as well, as a bit of a strategic element, fuel and tyres are reportedly on 2 times wear, so you're going to have to... There'd be a little bit more management and a little bit more balance of how much they want to be aggressive versus lifting and coasting. Keeping our eye to the front of the hypercar grid right now, as most of the hypercars have spaced themselves out. We might check in with Grossi and Diaz in a moment, but here comes Pocosi around the outside of Zaplar here, really trying to keep the nose in and keep the attack alive. Bit of four-wheel slide as Zaplar closes the door on the apex, just coming out Lecom and down into Bruxelles here, closing as much distance as he can, but in the end it's not quite gonna be there just yet for the number 19 Lamborghini. We'll check in as well with the GT3s. Here's Robert Poor making a quick move on Uhilal as they are attacking quickly to the inside. You don't want any challenges through Eau Rouge and Radion, but the two make it happen anyway. Uhilal has no choice but to take to the escape tarmac and to have a little bit of a dip back in position. Barham also capitalizing in the number 92. Unfortunately, we did lose a car in all of that commotion. That was Bouquet. They were, in fact, DNF'd by that whole ordeal. They did suffer from severe damage, and they will be, unfortunately, bowing out of this race. That was their tyre, one can only assume then, that went skyward. And hopefully, it bounced clear out the way, where it got caught by the catch fencing. So, last thing we want is a tyre in the grandstands.
Absolutely.
Was a battle that's going to be Debris and Patouche. They completely take each other out there, spinning, pirouetting across the final sectors. A Blanchimont, a little bit too aggressive on the exit. One tap turns to 2, turns to 3, turns to pit. And just like that, these two are now going to be limping into the pit lane, quickly having to get some emergency pit-ins done, as that has quickly become a brutal scenario. So De Vries and Patouche both coming into the box. What are they going to do here as they are on the air jacks? What will they do in this scenario? Meanwhile, Pocosi retains the attack on Zaplar this time. They got the nose in and they've held it all the way through Bruxelles. Now into No Name. Quickly got a bit of pressure on, but it's going to be Zaplar still retaining control and actually doing some really good defending here.
We have a three-way battle holding down the GT3s. There's Technic, Nispet and Starkey going at it. Taking on the outside doesn't get quite the line he would have liked through the
Look at the lead. Sorry to cut you off. Sorry to cut you off, mate, but we just had a change of the lead and not in the way we'd expect. That is Zaplar making contact with Pocosi and completely going off track. He's spearing off track. So Zaplar is going to recover into 6th place at best. Already under pressure still again, this time from Schlichting in the Ferrari as well, the number 51. In the end, though, it's not going to even be Pocosi that takes the lead of it. It's going to be none other than the number 63, is Gianluca Bellucci. They managed to capitalize on the loss of speed from Pocosi making that contact. So now Lamborghini has a 1, 2 and a 3. It is an SC63 lockout and the podium right now.
anything can happen in racing. It's unexpected things happen at very high speeds sometimes.
Yeah, they certainly unexpected. That's all. That's a mild way of putting it. Either way, we have Patouche and Wilson now making their way out. And you can see Wilson continuing to struggle with that Cadillac. It seems like they've really just not got it on the brakes. That's the second time we've seen them now struggle through the bus stop chicane. Tell me, have you had any wheel time behind the Cadillac at all? So maybe there's something to do with the brakes there.
Not at all. I haven't even tried.
Oh, Oh, we do have an issue as well, as that is Jordan Biddle. There's a suspiciously empty rear wing there, and you can see he's already losing the rear. That complete rear plane is just gone, so that car is going to be so off balance. It's going to be spinning at the drop of a hat. Biddle needs to get that back to the pits, and fast.
Yeah, definitely limping. He doesn't have the downforce at the rear he would like. I think he hit the side barriers after a rouge earlier. Unfortunate for him. Gonna be a recovery race.
There's a bit of a weird one though, so we briefly had Alistair Ramsey fighting not with an LMGT3, but with a hypercar. We had Paul Wallace, who was switching him back through La Source, and so that was certainly an interesting scenario to deal with for the LMGT3. But respect being shown, space being shown. They had a little bit of back and forth, but then they sort of said their farewells, and off goes the M Hybrid into the distance. Meanwhile, Grossi, Picosi, Bellucci, all the trio of Lambos are going to be remaining in that podium spot and having more or less control of the race right now. You can see Mitchell Diaz just in the background, in the back line, waiting to see if there's an opportunity to strike here, but no such opportunity has come.
Speaking of opportunities, the Timi Lehtonen getting hit in the first lap has opened some opportunities for other racers. We have here currently with Alistair Ramsey leading the GT3s, and he's got quite a respectable gap to the second place holder Daniel Moffat. Well done, sir.
Yeah, well done. So Ramsey's actually done a really good job here of just taking that early control. There was a bit of chaos at the start of the race, which of course would have affected the likes of Forte, Pur, Barham, etc. But that is going to be Ramsey currently with 2 seconds to his name. Moffat is going to be there. We just saw his Ferrari rounding Blanchimont, but it's not going to be within any meaningful striking distance. He hasn't got really any meaningful pressure, and this is a position that he needs to stay in if he wants to hold himself together right now. He's got a good spot. Just run some consistent laps. Don't lose your head over the fact that other drivers could catch you, and you'll be just fine. We're already seeing peel out even more of a gap. He's made a few tenths up, but someone who needs to make up time is Ferdinand Kerner. So he's got quite the battle ahead of him. Cook, De Vries, Batouche, Wilson, all in a similar boat. We have Biddle finally in the pits to get that wing resolved. Get that wing back on there. And I almost did a bit of a double take because, of course, the Peugeot 9X8 was designed without the rear wing, but coming off of Biddle, sorry. I almost thought, wait, did the Peugeot lose the wing too? No, that's genuinely its design.
Yeah, that's how it's supposed to look. Yeah, it can certainly throw you off because it does look like it's missing something at the back, but it's not.
I know we did look before at, and we did discuss how the car was designed in such a way to where it doesn't need a rear wing. I think the newer revision, I think the Gen 2 of the car does have a rear wing now, though that has gone back to a more conventional aero philosophy, but I stand by what I said. I absolutely stand by what I said originally, which was having no rear wing was is one of the defining features, or at least having a very low profile rear wing when you compare it to some of the other hypercars that are on the field.
Yeah, it certainly sets it apart in terms of looks, at least. It's a brave design choice from the team to
I just love the experimentation, and
absolutely.
I'd say you can see so many of these hypercars with a fairly traditional philosophy. Like you can look the 499Ps, you can put them side by side with some of the other prototype formats or the hypercar formats. You can see the Alpine has followed a very similar design philosophy, and everyone has to, of course, conform to the design regulations. But it's seeing how these teams approach it in different ways. Like the Porsche Aero is fundamentally quite different to, say, something like the Ferraris. You can see it's got a much thinner plane on the rear wing. It's got much higher end plates, like guiding the airflow, and much less aggressive, like overbody aero. Like really putting a lot of work into the side vanes, into the splitter and diffuser. So there's all these different things that factor into a single aero package.
Absolutely, and that's why receiving damage in any of these cars can be so bad, because you suddenly just lose the downforce because the sum of the parts is no longer greater than the whole.
Yeah, and this is the difficult thing. This is why it's so detrimental, because of course they are delicate as well. The important thing to keep
to be live.
These cars have got to keep themselves together. We saw it with Biddle. Even just the rear wing on an LMGT3 is enough to completely neuter the car's performance and turn it into a darty, pointy mess to drive. They're so finely balanced, and considering that these cars aren't built to make contact, they're not exactly the most robust when faced with another car.
Definitely not. You don't want to do request here. Biddle has managed to get the car repaired, though. There's a brand new wing on there. Good for him. Let's see if he can make up some of that lost time.
Back on form here, like we see with the two Lamborghinis. So we right now have Grossi was briefly touching the rear bumper of Picossi here. And we actually see that Zaplar has managed to make it back. We do have a DNF here, and that's going to be from Matteo Baldanini. So they will be making their way out of the order and will be residing themselves to the bottom of the grid. Gianluca Bellucci has also DNF'd here. So unfortunately we don't have any meaningful output as to the reason behind said DNF, but they are going to be dropping out the order. And I am surprised. I have to wonder what exactly happened there.
I'm afraid I didn't catch it either, but I would imagine that it takes an undrivable car to make these racers quit this race.
Unfortunately,
so probably some sort of damage.
Sometimes just the way it goes.
Absolutely. It's risky business. Race driving, which is why we do it virtually.
We are then. So we're on board with Mitchell Diaz now, currently chasing. See, that's going to be, I think that's Kerner they were lapping just there. But this is Diaz trying to keep some good proximity to the back of Alessandro Grossi in the Lambo. So got some good balance here. He's running the Porsche to its limits. And will be seeing decent success, although is falling away slightly. I think Grossi and Picossi have squabbled a little bit between themselves, and that has allowed Diaz to get in such close contention.
Yeah, it doesn't take a lot of battling to lose just a little bit of time that gives your opponents all they need to get back up to your slipstream. Then it can be really hard to shake them off again.
Mika Patouche at least back on track and now working to make up time, displacing the LMGT3 field and working that car around the traffic as quickly and as efficiently as they can. You can see firing it through Sector 3, heading into Blanchimont unperturbed, and even coming up to the back of some unlikely competition, as that's going to be at least one of the Toyotas here. Though that is not their rival, as that is actually a lap up. Henrik de Vries is going to be their next closest car, and even they themselves are facing a little bit of turmoil as they're trying to catch up to Richard Cook, and so far it's not happening.
On the GT3 side of things have mostly calmed down. We just have Reda and Nisbeth here, but still battling. Still going at it in the Mustang and the Porsche. Coming through La Source now. There is the Kemmel Strait coming up after Radillon Rouge. We'll see if that top line speed of the Mustang will pay off here. He's right up Ohilal's bumper. There he goes, they're side by side now. And he gets the move done. Well done, Mr. Nisbet.
Very nicely done. As Ian Nisbet running now in 20th place as they're dealing with a little bit of their own traffic, as that is going to be one of the Lamborghinis. Although here comes Picossi and Diaz. We do have a change up as Grossi headed into the box. Picossi and Diaz now being left to fight to their own devices. Mitchell, he's got quite a challenge being set on Federico here, with a decent line into La Source, just trying to set up as much time as they possibly can. Now making their way through Rouge and Radion. They could set themselves up well for the Kemmel Strait, but need to absolutely nail this section. Stay free of the drag and stay free of the slipstream. Will lose grip through that high aero section. Nicely done from the both. There's a bit of slipstream coming in for Diaz. Can he close the gap? Is it what he needs? Very close to the back, but not quite there. And really just reeling, trying to get any attempt at the position they can after the challenge they held through into the bus stop chicane out of Blanchimont. This is where things could get to crunch time now.
Jordan 40 has made good time on Daniel Moffat and now less than half a second behind his bumper through La Source.
So he's keeping an eye firmly on Diaz right now. But we do have some other challenges that are brewing here. Is Alexander Borgso, for instance, he's going to be right behind Marvin Butzin, but these two are going to try and beat each other out of the pits. And when that happens, you're going to have quite a predicament on your hands. See a little bit of a wobble from the LMGT3s as well, as that is the Ferrari. You can see trying to dice their way through the field.
Mr. 40 has got the move done on Daniel Moffat and has taken the second place of the GT3 field.
Nicely done there. We also have Henrik de Vries, bottom end of the hypercar class, now chasing Richard Cook. And if there's one thing I do know about the Cadillac is that while it may not be the best handling hypercar, the engine noise and the acceleration is something that really just it's just something that's so special about this car. I'm a little bit of a fan. I'm a little bit of a fanboy with this car in particular. I can't lie, because I don't know how to describe it other than I can feel it rattle my bones when this engine comes roaring past. You hear the audio of the other cars, but it's just the Cadillac is something else.
That is definitely something you want in a car. You're gonna be spending a lot of time in there. You gotta like the sound it makes.
Yeah, we're seeing a mass flood into the pit lane now, so we are 24 minutes into the race session, folks, and it is going to be a mad dash for everyone to get through the pits as fast as possible. There's Mitchell Diaz. They're going to lose a serious amount of time in the pit lane, so it is going to be Grossi actually undercutting the others out of the pits, We will see Picossi rejoin the track in second, with Diaz and Holstenius closely behind in third and fourth. Zappler is going to come out in fifth, starting a bit of their recovery to position. And then Schlichting is out in seventh, just at beating out David Pettick.
Top 5 GT3s are all in the pits currently. Let's see who gets the beating done first. Out first.
So all just boxing for what they have to. Hilal is going to be in the furthest ahead box here. But pretty much the entire discipline is going to be in. And you have one of the Porsches now making its way out. That is Panos Vasilopoulos making their way out of the pit lane first. Curiously, we talked about a couple of the hypercar DNFs, but we also have a DNF from Timi Lehtonen. So considering the position that they were in last time, it's disappointing to see them bow out of the race.
Yeah, they received some heavy damage on lap 1, I believe. Always sad to see, but that's the way she goes. Sometimes she doesn't.
Here we go. This is going to be an interesting one here. This is going to be Kerner versus Henrik de Vries right now. So half a second gap to each other. Trying to balance right now. Looks like Kerner is falling away a little bit. So de Vries gripping up as fast as they can. Really powering out of those corners. You can see there's just not enough in the tank. It's not enough to really link everything up together at this point in time. We also have two Ferraris who are fighting one another out of the bus stop chicane. And it's interesting to always watch these kind of inter-car battles. While they're not necessarily on teams, you can almost feel a sense of allegiance when someone has got the same car as you. So
yeah,
it's a good bit of fun watching them fight, of course, but it does play in the back of your mind a little bit. You might show a bit more space than you would normally, even if you don't realise.
it's all part of the racing psychology, which is an essential skill set of any racer. GT3 is out of the pits mostly now. Alistair Ramsey has resumed pole position, followed by Nisbet Jordan, 40, Daniel Moffat and Robert Burr in the top 5.
They all filing their way through. Paul Wallace now in the hypercars, also now heading into the pit lane. There will be one to watch. We've got a hefty battle for the hypers, as this is Schlichting, Pettick, Holstenius all running together and all running close. As you can see in the smaller picture, there is a bit of a traffic navigation wobble when it comes to the GT3s, almost ending in disaster there.
It can be a bit scary when the faster cars are coming through when you're in the slower class, but you just have to keep your line, stay predictable, and keep a cool head. It's on the passing the car to pass safely. Ben said earlier.
Here we go. Let's do a little bit of a roundup of where we currently stand. Alessandro Grossi managed to significantly undercut the rest of the field and is currently sat in the top spot, easily pushing forward here with 5 seconds gap to Federico Picossi in second. Adam Zappler is in third place, although not to be outdone. Mitchell Diaz is very close, waiting in the wings, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see that third place spot change hands in the very near future. You can see them both chasing each other right to the very line. We're dealing with a little bit of GT3 traffic. This is going to be a bit of a tense moment here. This is Diaz trying his best to keep within the tail of Zappler. keep behind the
Through
GT3 as
the
much as they
nicely.
can. Here we go. Here we go. It's Diaz heading it in to Puon. Keeping it on the outside. Very daring move. You don't see the outside sends through there, but Diaz manages to do it. And what a run there. Mitchell Diaz has taken third place. And has done it in quite a spectacular spot on track 2. We do have a brief yellow flag coming out. And that was, I believe, for the GT3 just there from the Porsche.
Slight off track there.
Meanwhile, Schlitting and Pettik continue to squabble. Very close to the back of Pettik there. There was Schlitting dipping left, dipping right. They're going to go right to the outside as much as they can. No attack, no major move just yet. But they are seriously putting the pressure on now. There's the Porsche. It's going to be Ferraris either side. And then they switch positions as Schlitting goes to the outside, trying to get a bit of switchback and more power out of the corner. Is successful in doing so. Great setup here. Can they hold through Eau Rouge and Puon is the question. As Pettik is going to slot in behind. Both of them go through the uphill complex together. Very nicely played here.
Gotta say, it's amazing what the hypercar aero package can do. You can go through turns and at speeds the GT3s could never dream of.
We do see here a bit of a wobble with the mingling of LMGT3 and hypercar traffic. This is Diaz as well as Zaplar, and then because he coming together there, that's going to be a wobble for the Puon. Barely keeping it together. That could have ended in an absolute disaster, so we were lucky that we only got minor touch damage and a bit of a slide across the course. Diaz, Zaplar, very close to one another. Their fighting is allowing Pocosi to get away a little bit here, so I would be careful. If I were these two, I'd have to pick my priorities and pick my lane in this endeavor. Grossi, meanwhile, 16.2 seconds away from the next closest racer, and an absolutely ridiculous gap to be pulling out at this stage of the game. But here we go, there's more wobbling around as they can't almost decide sometimes where to go. Do they go left, right? Do they stick behind their rival, or do they try and send it out in the apex? They're having to make these decisions, and it's difficult decisions to make when you're going over 250 kilometers per hour.
Quickly. Absolutely. Nisbet Jordan 40 added again. Mustang first, followed by the BMW. Going through La Sauce in the Euros Radillon.
Meanwhile as well, Diaz and Zaplar were close, but Zaplar's got a quick peel away. Ferrari looking rapid. Also see a Ferrari coming through some of our GT3 traffic. There is going to be in Nisbet. Very close with Forte. Side by side all the way through Le Com into Bruxelles. In the end, it is a better run on the exit into Bruxelles now. Clean line held throughout the course. Looking to dip themselves, rotates through. Just keeping a consistent line. That's the best way to deal with traffic if you're in a GT3. Don't be overzealous. Don't try and defend a position that you can't hold, or don't try to change your position on track in a way the others don't expect, because the hypercar traffic will be coming through here, and they will not take kindly to such an endeavor as going across the track.
Yeah. The less time you spend fussing about with how the hypercar goes past you, the less time you both lose. And he will get past you, he is much faster than GT3s. So the faster that's done, the better for all involved.
Figuratively and literally in a different league. These hypercars, in fact, are perfectly demonstrated by the Toyota just sweeping past.
Yep.
They are going to get by. That is inevitable. You are only denying the inevitable by continuing that pushback. So the best thing you can do, let the hypercar go by running predictably. Ooh, bit of a wobble there for Forte. He's cracked under the pressure. Serious wobble there. Barely holds it. Moffat now waiting in the wings.
Could be that double tire consumption coming into play as well.
Yeah, quite right. Maybe the double consumption is playing into their grip levels more than they were expecting. They're expecting maybe the normal fall off, except just the pit and the tires would handle themselves later. So sweep through. Flitting and Pettik both making their way through. In through No Name and now into Puon. Good clean line. I think they've given each other enough space by this point where they're not going to be disturbed by each other's driving. And with that is where the most of the field does align. Dan Wilson has made the decision to pit in and retire the car. I think they made a judgment call there. I think the judgment call was correct. They were several laps behind by the end of it all. So pitting in and retiring the car. I think in their case, where they didn't feel that they could get the gains up. I think that's a situation where it might have been warranted. Well, we say that,
Yeah,
points for finishing.
Absolutely. It's most of the time worth it, limping the car back and trying to finish rather than quitting, but it's understandable and sometimes things happen.
Yeah, I think unless it's an inevitability that you are going to lose any of your points, like you just cannot make it to the end, and you're always better off than staying, even if you lag behind, because there are points on the line just for making it to said line.
And I always say it's all practice. Even if you're several laps behind and all going horribly wrong, you're still getting the kilometers on track. You're still getting more time behind the wheel. You're always learning.
Yeah, always learning, always improving. That's the name of the game right there. It's just as much about honing your racecraft as it is about performing well on the day. And that is a beautiful balance, I think. When you
absolutely
have a community like this here in the sim racing world, it's easier than anything to just sit down, have a good race, let's have some good entertainment, but at the same time, you have drivers who are pushing to improve, to get better, and they will be tested on these tracks, of course. So it is our premier series here at GRDC, but we'll have also an environment where they can learn, where they can develop, move forward in their racing prowess.
Absolutely. We accept and welcome all levels of driving here at GRDC, and one of the fastest ways to get a bit faster on the track is racing with the faster guys. You will subconsciously learn just driving behind them, see where they brake, see where they go through the corner, see where they hit the gas on the exit. It all helps.
Well, we have, of course, the clean racing aspect to consider too, with the drivers being scrutinized for reported incidents and penalties being placed. So Gary Barham was, for example, last time ended up, say, having a report that was later dropped, but Bellucci was given 20 seconds for an avoidable incident on lap 1 and got 2 penalty points on their license. So you can have up to 5 points before you start receiving consequences. In this case, 5 points will get you a qualifying ban, 8 points will get you a race ban, and then 10 points is when your position in the championship could be forfeit. It's also worth mentioning that if you accumulate 5 points or more in a single event, you automatically get a race ban on the spot, even if you haven't reached 8.
It's sometimes hard to keep the car on track and all that sorts of stuff, but we offer help. Ooh, we have just seen Robert hit the wall. Ready Lonarus. Unfortunate for him. Where was I? So yes, we want people to race cleanly, race hard, but respect the other racers, and you always got to leave the space.
Gotta leave space. Gotta respect your fellow racers. Nisbet currently in 3rd place as Forte has managed to get themselves back round. Don't think that's going to last entirely for long, but saying that, we did have a massive wobble there from Nisbet. That is going to be Moffat's chance to strike. They head to the inside line. Moffat on the 66 Ferrari, now in ahead of the 44 Mustang. 4th place is where the yellow car is displaced to, and now the fight is going to be on to reclaim a podium spot. We don't really have such luck when it comes to the front of the hypercars. We do have Akossi chasing down and going a little bit into the dirt for Zaplar's position. See just how aggressive, like, look how much of the track they are taking in comparison to someone like Zaplar here.
Yep. They paid for all the track and they're gonna use all the track.
What more can be said than that? Akossi is hunting and they are a driver on a mission. You disturb the hunt, then you are next. But so far, 4/10 behind Zaplar and not showing any signs of slowing down. Most drivers
meanwhile,
split.
is having a bit of an off, and he's peeling to the pitch, but unfortunately hits the side of the pit lane a bit there. I think his tires are shredded at this point. The car doesn't seem to grip at all for him right now. Better get those tires changed. Good call from him.
Yeah, tough ride. As I think he, as you said, has just extended those rubbers a little bit too far. And luckily will be the last pit stop for him if the current timings serve. It has been a tough process nonetheless. Because he within a second, but it's actually starting to fall away in terms of pace a little from Zaplar. Not much to do, much to be done. At this point, the best GT3 is about 2 laps behind the hypercar. It is Alistair Ramsey with a massive 10-second gap.
Yep. Impressive showing from Alistair tonight. He got the first place early on and he clearly intends to keep it.
Yeah, well, it's that position of defense. You have almost more that you want to... it's always like knowing what you want to do. So, careful.
Yeah.
Got to be uber careful. And this is just a sentiment to all drivers. It's being uber careful of the cars around you. Same class or different class. Because the last thing you want is tears and accidents. And we've seen how that already turns out with our 5 DNF cars.
Things can certainly get a bit spicy sometimes here at Spa. Eros does not give mercy.
You do have a bit of a safety net in the form of the wide runoff, so you can return to the track. However,
Assuming you've kept control of the car, which is easy to lose in busy situations going up the hill there.
It does assume that you can keep a tight leash on that car. And it does assume as well that you are able to make it out without getting beached. You do have the runoffs, but you also have gravel. And you will lose a ton of time in getting back on track or wading through that if you manage to get through at all. Not uncommon to see cars beach themselves.
Yep, these things are not made for cross-country driving.
We have a fight heading towards the GT3 end of the spectrum. Is Stejink. While the Protos / Hypercars have been spreading themselves out here. So you have Diaz on Picossi and you have Petic on Grossi. In fact, who's going to be actioning that move right now into the second / third sector here. Cleanly ran here. And it's going to be Petic, unfortunately, dipping back in. But the statement of intent has been made. So they're not going to be completely unchallenged.
Yep. This one's 2 pit stops for the GT3s, right? With the double fuel consumption.
2 pit stops overall.
Yes.
There's Nate Walter, survivor of the earlier kerfuffle. Immediate takeaway is that he's challenging hard for the P8 on Button.
Race is coming down to the last 13.5 minutes of it, and our drivers are gonna want to lock down those positions they have gained so far if they intend to score the maximum points.
Here we go as well. We've got the 3 leaders heading into the pits with 13 minutes to go. You have Schlichting also following through, as well as I assume many others when they eventually get there. But final stop likely on the boards of the Spa-Francorchamps WSC round 2. We also have Nate Walter continuing to pressure on Butson right now. How are the GT3s been doing, Eero?
The field's a bit spread now. There's no immediate fighting going on anywhere. Alistair has kept the lead, well done for him. Daniel Moffat is still climbing his way up from after losing a couple of spots. But there's no real close battles going on currently.
Yes, we can of course continue to monitor the field as they are stabilizing, but as it currently stands, Zapla, Diaz and Picossi complete your podium with Schlichting, Rossi, Petic, Butson, Walter, Olstenius and Wallace being top 10. Meanwhile, we have top 10 for the GT3s. It's Ramsey, Forte, Uhilal, Staging, Borgerson, Moffat, Niesbet, Starkey, Whitehouse, and that is Evangelos Cortis. Into your spread. And plenty of opportunity to make up some time, but whether they can do it is another question entirely.
Yep, right about now is coming up to the time where the pit strategy choices are coming into play quite heavily. We saw earlier with the yellow Mustang losing rear end grip when the tires are gone. The Mustang and Nisbet, that is.
The thing
Go on.
The thing I can't help but try to work out is what the game is with someone like Ramsey. So currently pitted in, is in the box. Forte is going to be closing in behind, but I have to wonder what is giving Ramsey this kind of pace to be able to hold the place and position and distance that they have.
He's absolutely done a stellar job today. Maybe Spa is one of his fortes.
Maybe Spa is indeed one of them. We do.
Sterling dropping anyway.
There you go. Ramsey now headed out. As it's going to be a quick run out of there. They might be surrounded by other cars. Certainly the P class. So this will be an interesting dynamic as the things continue forward. We have Walter and Butson now very close. This is going to be the Ferrari on the defense, Toyota on the offense. Has the narrow line into La Source, but because they went too narrow, they weren't able to straighten out in time. Lost a big amount of exit speed. That is going to be the problem here. That is leaving Walter currently in the dust.
Yep, you want to take all the possible speed through there for the long straight after.
So that is the closest duo we have on track right now. Pettik is up ahead with... We do have, of course, their battle with Schlitting subsiding and coming to an end. You have Alessandro Grossi, who's embroiled in all of this, but remember, they have taken another stop and taken it early.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to mean that Grossi does have a chance to push back and push forward when the rest of the field comes to park it up. Zappler, for example, heading into the bus stop chicane is going to be remaining committed. Could those longer stints be the key? As we do have a potential chance to see fighting up and down the order.
It's definitely down to the when you have the fresh tires and when you can make more use of the fresh tires and those two.
Oh, hold that thought, hold that thought. Butson is off. Butson is off. They went into the gravel. So now we have a unfortunate case of a hypercar just completely marooned off circuit. I don't know if they'll be able to recover this or recover what's happening. But Butson is out of there and is likely going to be stuck, but 7 minutes 45 on the clock. See it through, and it's still points for the team.
Yep. We have Franklin Stignig and Greg Starkey having a bit of a battle for the 6th position. GT3s.
This is Starkey in the 91.
Yes. Porsche versus BMW. It's the German manufacturers dueling it out.
What a fight they are having. Starkey on the back of staging, trying to close some time up. And will be just about as relevant now as competitors they have. Oh, what's happened?
They are still at it. Going up Belarus, ready to learn now.
Oh, here we go. This is where things get spicy, folks. So we got that, and we've also got a challenge towards the front. Considering that Forte and Ramsey are now duking it out here. Very close together. 0.3 of a second, 0.4 of a second. Here comes the Toyota. Potential disruptor to all of this, but the Toyota is staying behind. At least waiting until Blanchimont before going for an attack round. You can see, there you go. Foot dropped. The wick is turned up. There is going to be a quick move overtake. by a Toyota.
Franklin still holding his own against Craig, but ooh, they go side by side. True. Pace is being given. A bit of a wiggle from our Dutch friend, and I think that's all Craig needs to take the position.
Here we go. It's just over 5 minutes left in this race, and things have not calmed down for some. Ramsey still hot on the heels of Jordan 40. Remember, this is the line, and this is the difference between victory and defeat. It's all on the line here. We don't have much in the way of battle on the Hyper side. We do have Pettik and Grossi staying close together, but that's just it. They've stayed close together. There hasn't been really a deviation in a good time. So,
still waiting for that moment, that opportunity to arrive.
Unless Pettik has something up the sleeve, though, it's not going to be an easy move. It's going to be pretty hard done. We have two more heading into the pits.
Last lap.
Looks like we do have another retiree. This is going to be Butsin. They have retired out into the pits, of course, following their crash and following the damage that they likely would have sustained to the rear of the car in particular. Have been deemed unrepairable by the team and ordered the car back in.
Yeah, they are amazing mechanics and engineers here in LMU garage, but even they can't fix everything.
Even they have their limits, though. They can't be miracle workers on a weekly basis.
Absolutely.
Anyway, here we go. Here is Henrik de Vries trying to catch up as best they can. We also have a Zaplar going for a DNF, which I find very surprising, actually. Zaplar is out. It's another podium sitter who has bailed out of the race. And that is going to be 7 retirees, 6 of them being a Hyper. Crazy
You
the
think
kind of drop-off.
It was fuel miscalculations or something, because double fuel might be throwing people off a bit.
Surely that wouldn't be a reason to retire, however.
Yeah, you can get more from the pits.
Unless there was a case where they literally cannot get back into the pits for whatever reason.
That. There is that. Check around towards the back of the field. You got Vasilopoulos making his way around, with making space for hypercars coming through. Jordan Biddle, Gary Barham, Carl Whitehouse, and Opeth Burr holding the following spots. It's a shame what happened to Burr there. He was contending for the top 3 position, top 4 5 position certainly earlier in the race, until slight collision with the wall ended those dreams.
There's walking the tightrope. With 2 minutes to go, certain drivers will certainly be walking that tightrope in just a moment. Here's Alistair Ramsey chasing as much as they can, trying to close the gap on Forte and hold it towards the end. That's the crucial thing for them here, is they want to hold that line towards the very end and towards the finish, of course. Forte is currently holding the lead. And will there be
a bit of an off track there for Ramsey. They are pushing the car quite hard at this point. There's not much left in the race. Hypercar coming through, throwing a bit of a wrench in the mix. But not for long, it's already gone.
So you're looking around, and let's see what we currently have in store. So, final roundup on the clock. Of course, we have the Zapla and Butts in retirement, making 7 in total, bringing our total of drivers from 34 to 27. GT3 mostly unaffected. It's the prototypes that are really getting hit hard, as they are now down to 13 cars, where they had so many before. I do believe, in fact, that the LMGT3s might outnumber, if ever so slightly, might outnumber the hypercars that are on course. We look to the front, we can see a little bit of traffic management here, as that is in fact going to be Borgso, who is a lap down, mind you. They will be starting to feel some of that.
We also have Nisbet trying to catch up to Hilala, but there's a 3-second gap. I don't think he can make it one lap, because our race timer has ended, and it's coming down to the last few battles we have going on, last few corners for some of these drivers.
Going to be,
Foley and Ramsey still going at it.
I say they're continuing to fight. Here comes as well a bit of squabbling as Grossi and Schlitting. David Pettick waiting in the wings. Oh, that is my mistake, it looks like there. Things are quickly shuffling, and although there's contact, that is going to be serious contact. Grossi is spun. We also have one of the GT3s taking a serious hit. Unfortunately, there's no internal track map. They're having to route and find is part of the fun here at GRDC. Yep. The check flag has officially fallen, and coming up to the line, a little bit of drama behind, but that's not going to disturb them. An hour's race later, and Federico Pacossi stands tall as the number 19 Lamborghini finishing out on top. Cross the line, excellent work there. That is going to be a happy bunny. You can see already having a bit of celebration with a very impressive run there. Returning back to the pits, as there's going to be Mitchell Diaz and David Pettick going in second and in third respectively. A good run there from those two. Meanwhile, you have a couple of more. We have, for example, Schlitting. We have Grossi coming down. There's Nate Walker making his way. Jordan 40 is going to be another retiree, last minute retiree too. I think he was the one who was affected, or were they? We'll have to double check, of course. And if we do ever see any drivers in post or during this live chat post race, then do feel free to tell us.
Oh, Borgerson having a bit of difficulty.
There were most of the hypercars are in the pit. So Pacossi, followed by Diaz, Pettick, Schlitting, Grossi, Walker, and Holstenius. There's going to be just coming up to the line here. You can see a little bit even of lift and coast as they wobble their car to the finish. The last one through. Then it's going to be followed by Paul Wallace, Mika Patouche, and Henrik de Vries, Alexander Borgso, Mark Ferdinand Kohner, Richard Cook, and Adam Zapla. So back eyes to the LMGT3s. The 40. Unfortunately hit with that DNF. This is going to be Alistair Ramsey taking the crown, taking the honours. And
impressive race from him. He's performed very, very well tonight. Consistent, fast, and he's kept a cool head on his shoulders to not mess up with the pressures of multi-class and leading the race. Well done, sir. I believe Mr. Moffat has then got the second place due for this DNF.
Yeah, I do believe so. Well, let's have a look at it all anyway. Let's see what the field has to say for itself. So let's bring up that session result. And you can see it's Percussi with Diaz, Pettik rounding out our podium here. So you'll be sure to see that next week. We do have also Schlitting and Grossi completing your top 5 before we go to Walter, Holstenius, Wallace, Patush, and Henrik de Vries in the top 10. Next off, you have Remy Alexander, Borgso, Mark Ferdinand Kerner, Richard Cook as well, making their way to the end with Adam Zaplar, unfortunately being a DNF in this ordeal, and Alistair Ramsey being the winner of the LMGT3s. Then you had Forte also with a DNF, and then Moffat, Nisbet, Uhilal, and then Starkey, followed closely by Stejink, Borgerson, Cortis, Robert Poor, Carl Whitehouse, Gary Barham, Jordan Biddle, and then Panagotis Vasilopoulos. So that is quite a race that we've just had. And I have such a happy feeling, such a buzz coming off of that race. It was quite intense in some key moments. We really had some really good eyes into the action, I think, tonight. I think it was a lot better to catch and see exactly what was going on and really get sort of hands-on with some of the drivers and see what they experienced too. Hopefully we get to chat to some of them as well. Hopefully we get to talk and see what they have to say in terms of the in terms of the session that they just had. We'll give it a minute and see what they have in mind to discuss. But one thing I want to find out is who will be your personal driver of the day, Eero.
I would have to give that to Alistair Ramsey. I believe he's showed an impressive dominant race tonight.
Really
and
inclined to agree.
Yeah, brilliant racing.
I really am inclined to agree there. I mean, if I had to split it into two, I would say that in the LMGT3 category, 100%. Ramsey capitalized on a bit of early chaos, which, yes, it may be outside of his control, but it was early chaos nonetheless. And in terms of the hypercar category, as much as I want to say Kosi, just because of such a clean performance, I actually am going to give it to Mitchell Diaz. I think that Diaz really did put the work in. They were fighting hard and they were really pushing in that car. Really good stuff from them. And they sort of kept themselves out of trouble too. I know there was a bit of a wobble with some of the racers, but in the end, I am going to give it personally to Diaz and to say more than welcome to agree or disagree. Anyone in the live chat or watching this in post can throw their ideas and their hats in the ring. Either that or join us on our Discord. But that is where I don't think we have drivers who want to come in for an interview here. We will check in with the drivers chat and see if there is anything. I'm not seeing anything, and we will have, I don't think we will have a chance to talk to anyone tonight, but still really good fun out there and
brilliant racing from everybody. Well done.
Agreed. Where are we going next is the question, Eero, because of course we have tonight now under our belt. We've had a great round 1. Where are we headed after round 2?
I believe that would be Fuji.
Ooh, okay. So, Fuji, it's a good track to look forward to. I'm pretty excited for it. But this is where we love you and leave you. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, without our ears getting completely blasted, Wanted to give a shout out to our winners from round 1. That is Zaplar, Bellucci, and Picossi. We're going to give it the proper fanfare it deserves this time after our audio bugged out a little bit on the first go round. So well done to them for round 1. And then in the other end of the spectrum on the LMGT3s, we had Timmy Lettinen, Danny Moffat, and Robert Poor. So again, well done to those 6 drivers who made their respective podiums. With that, we will soon be seeing you on the track with Fuji in round 3. We'll also have our announcement for the winners of round 2. But for now, this is where we say goodbye. Thank you very much, folks, for joining us, and good night.
And good night from me as well. Thank you.